Hey, let's talk about Harley Davidson bottom ends, and I'm going to teach you a couple things that you're going to look for if you ever plan on maybe doing your own top end or maybe your own cams. So my name's Cam, and this is Gnarly's. All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the dreaded bottom ends. And I'm going to teach you a lot of stuff with the bottom ends and what to look for. You know, I'm not a chef, but I cook my own meals every day, and I want you guys to work on your own motorcycles too. But I also want you to do it smartly, and I want you to be educated on the subject. So today we're going over crankshafts. The crankshaft is like the heartbeat of the engine. See, combustion happens and it pushes down on this crankshaft. And this crankshaft is what rotates, and this is what gives us rotational force, okay? This is what's gonna turn combustion into an actual wheel spinning, is this right here. However, this is probably one of the more sensitive components, and it's honestly one of the most expensive. On my side over here, I have the output shaft, and this side is gonna drive the rear wheel. But one side that we really wanna pay attention to is the pinion shaft side. Now, the pinion shaft lives the oil pump and the oil pump gears, and these have very tight tolerances. Between your oil pump gears, which I'll show you later on, you have about 2 to 3 thousandths of a clearance max. So we don't have a lot of room in there to play around with. On the pinion side, we measure this runout. And what do I mean by runout? So here's perfect runout, and as it gets sloppier, the runout gets more and more excessive, right? So it's doing this instead of a nice perfect circle. And we use one of these gauges to measure that. Let's zoom in. So from 0 to 3 thousandths, I would consider this a great crankshaft. I would probably go buy a lottery ticket, but most of the cranks I see out of my shop are gonna be anywhere from 4 thousandths to 6 thousandths runout. This is still a decent crank. You can do a lot with this. From 7 thousandths to 8 thousandths, it's very concerning. I don't know if I would wanna put any components on there. I kind of leave it up to the customer. Anything more than 8 thousandths on the runout gauge, I tell the customer I don't want to put any parts on there. It needs to be repaired, and I'm not going to go any further just because it's going to eat those gears to pieces. That's how to check for pinion shaft runout. Now there's a second thing I want to look for. So when we get the top end apart, these rods will actually tell quite a different story. One thing that we want to check for is we want to pull up on the rods and make sure that there's no play in the rods whatsoever. Now, the last check, you start at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 12 o'clock, and you feel for these rods. You make sure that they're not sticking at all. Now, this crank, you can see right here, I'll find the sticky point, this is no good. So these rods are sticking. These should be able to fall nice and freely. So we are gonna pull this bottom end out. We're gonna split these cases. We're gonna take it apart. I'm gonna show you all of this, and then we're gonna send this crank off to Nailor Performance, where they're gonna pin, weld, true, and balance this within a 0.5 thousandth to 1.5 thousandths of runout. So let's do it. Let's pull this out. And that's it. This is the bottom end out of the bike. Oh God, this is bad. So the very first thing I like to do is I like to take one of these fluid extractors, and I like to get all this oil out of the bottom end. So we're gonna do that now. We have all that oil removed. I like to take all these case bolts out right here. Let's do that now. So now that all the case bolts are out, I just like to put down a couple towels, and we're gonna go ahead and split this. So we have all the case bolts out. What I like to do is I take a piece of wood, go right on these ears on the case. Now I put the wood like this, and I tap it lightly until the case separates. Now, don't take your dead blow and don't hit these ears. So most of these hammers, if it's not a snap-on one, if it's like a Harbor Freight, it's still a metal hammer that just has sand in it and a plastic thing. You will dent these, or you could break them. So I like to take a piece of wood, I like to hit it right here, and I like to get it until it separates. Let's do that now. Okay, we'll zoom in. So now you can see this case is split. So now what we're gonna do is we're not gonna just jam our screwdrivers in here and force it out like this, because what that's gonna do is it's gonna mar up this gasket surface, and it's probably gonna leak. And instead, we're gonna put the screwdrivers in here and do a turning motion on the case and not the gasket surface like this. Now this is gonna separate our case just a little bit, just enough so we can get the crank out. And there you go. That's splitting the cases. So this is the crankshaft like I was talking about. Another really cool thing I want to show you is if you look at all of these teeth right here, see all these teeth? There's a big spot where there's a gap. And actually the CKP, or the crank position sensor that lives on the front of the motor, reads all these teeth, and it says, I see teeth, 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 no teeth. Teeth, 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 teeth. And when it sees that no teeth, it knows exactly where it is. That's how your crank position sensor works, and that's actually how it fires the spark plugs. It has to fire them at the perfect time, at top dead center compression. This is actually how your motorcycle figures out when to fire the spark plugs. All of a sudden it gets to that no teeth right here, the crank position sensor sees that and says, I see no teeth, and the ECU goes, fire the spark plug number 1. So that's pretty cool. That's another thing with the crank. Now we're gonna send this crank off to Naylor Performance here in Phoenix, Arizona. They are the best in the business now. The guy's been doing it for about 20, 30 years, and he is a wizard. So we're gonna let him handle that. But here at Gnarly's, we're gonna take care of all the rest of this stuff. We're gonna press out these cam bearings, we're gonna press out this main bearing, as well as that output bearing as well. So let's do that now. So the very first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take the cam compartment side, or the side with the oil filter adapter. See this one right here. Now we're gonna flip it around so we're on the inside. Now this is where the crank lives and the cams would be on the other side. It's very important that you're gonna take these bearings out from this side and not this side. If you try to remove this bearing from this side, you are gonna destroy these cases, because these bearings go all the way in, they hit a lip on the inside and they stop going in. So we're gonna flip it over to this side. I'm just gonna tap them right out. There we go, and there is 2. So next up, we're gonna remove this main bearing. Now you are gonna need a specialty tool for this. I get mine from George's Garage. Let's go grab it. So you are gonna put this side down on your press, and this is going to support the case right there. It's also gonna allow the bearing to fall into the tool. So what I do is I go over to this cam compartment side and I put the tool through like this. And then I line this part up. So it's like that. Now we can go press it. Presses that bearing out perfect. And here's that tool, see? It just presses it down into that recess, and there's that crank bearing. So these always get replaced anytime you're doing a crank. It's just cheap insurance. The last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna remove these piston oilers. Now these spray oil up on top of the piston. Remember, the piston's coming up and down right here. So these oilers are gonna spray and keep that wrist pin nice and cool. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this seal. I like to just take a crowbar and just get it out of the way. It comes out pretty easy. Just like that. Trash. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. This isn't a how-to video. This is just showing you guys what the inside of these cases look like, what a crankshaft looks like, and what's really going on in here. As you can tell, there's not much. There's a crankshaft, there's a couple bearings, a couple cam bearings, a seal, and a spacer. That's it, guys. There's not much to these. However, if you mess this up, it's gonna be 20 hours of labor to get back into it. So yeah, thanks guys for watching so much. I really appreciate it. We're gonna go drop off this bottom end and the crank to Naylor Performance and pick it back up brand new. So cool. How we going? Thanks for watching.